Randy Gregory met with 49ers media yesterday, and he kind of said, like, he alluded to him and the coaching staff not being on the same page. He also said in training camp was hard for him getting his legs back coming off the injury last year. So maybe he would say, well, yeah, Sean's on my ass saying I wasn't working hard. Well, Sean, I'm coming off an injury. I'm getting myself up to speed. Greg Papa said on radio on Thursday that Randy Gregory lined up offside 6 times in 49ers practice on Wednesday. So that's obviously a concern. But
remember, he had about 4 in the playoff game a couple years ago.
I'll tell you what, though, when you see the guy, you're like, Nick Bosa doesn't go to like a high school camp and teach everybody about pass rushing in a way that like those people can then take Nick Bosa's advice and work on some stuff and become Nick Bosa. But, we've always talked about there's just a talent level that this Randy Gregory has that you normally don't acquire for free, basically. The veterans minimum, swap picks at this point in the year. So it does have the chance to be special. What's your take?
His 2022 was interesting because he resurrected his career in 21. He was just a good player. The Cowboys wanted to keep him. The Broncos kind of overspent on him. His 22 on the Broncos was after signing a 5-year, $70 million deal. He obviously hurt his knee and went on injured reserve. He also got into a post-game fight with the Rams. He got suspended. He had to apologize. I mean, he is a little bit of a roller coaster. Like, he's one of your classic Jerry Jones projects that kind of hit because he is really talented. The Broncos did the classic, we're going to cut him. This happens a lot in training camp, and then hoping someone would just give you a 6th or 7th round pick for the guy, and that's what the Niners did. But I hesitate with this type of stuff. Like, one of the things you hang your hat on right now is cohesion, team character. Now, maybe they would say, at the first moment's notice, anything gets weird, we will cut this guy without hesitation, which might be fair. But I do think there's some risk involved.
So if we had played the guest John's take on this, because when they signed him, I think I did a video on YouTube, or right before. I did too, so I can't remember which was which. But my take was basically this guy's not he's not their type of guy. Like, just fundamentally based on when you tell me Sean Payton thought he wasn't working hard in camp, that's not their type of guy, right? On the other hand, the flip side of that is they have built such a strong team that no individuals coming in from the outside and messing up their mojo, right? No one's going to screw with their chemistry if they come in and don't act right, especially on defense with Chris Kaceric's defensive line. So from that standpoint, you could say they're actually really well positioned to kind of, quote unquote, take a chance on them because it doesn't cost them anything. Like you said, if it's not working, it's not working. Goodbye. They're not in a position right now where they need him today. Like, they're adding him for depth. But right now, today, they're not in a desperate spot on defense, right? So they don't have to, if he does something wrong, late to a meeting, I don't know, whatever, they don't have to overlook it because they don't need him right now. They really could use him, but they don't need him right now. So, I mean, part of the benefit that you get when you build a sound team and a sound organization with leaders and clearly understood roles and all that is you can take a chance that a bad organization, can't take. I've said it to you a lot. Bad basketball teams don't have role players. Nobody wants to play a role on a bad basketball team. Everyone wants to shoot. Good teams have role players. Well, Randy Gregory went from Denver, where he was like one of their star signings. Probably would have been an even bigger story if they hadn't gotten Russell, because Russell overshadowed a lot of it. To now he comes in and he doesn't have to be anything other than, we'll see how many snaps he gets, other than one of the guys who benefits from playing with Javon Hargrave and Nick Bosa.
Well, to me, they looked at it pretty simple. Like, we think Randy Gregory is better than Kerry Hyder because they cut Kerry Hyder.
Yeah.
And listen, I would imagine just in a vacuum, clearly Kerry Hyder's a pretty well-liked guy, right? Just is no issue. Doesn't have to play that much, right? but from a character work ethic standpoint, immediately signs with the Texans, who I would say Caserio and D'Amico are pretty high standards with character. 49ers really liked him. Seattle liked him. So I'm just saying, like, are you getting a huge upgrade at this point in time for the potential character risk? It's just risky what you have going on. It's one thing in the draft, like what the Eagles did. Because I think the moment all those guys, and you hear their clips all the time, it's like, geez, we've never seen anything like this. So his talent, like, we get it. It's on us to help corral this guy, make the right decisions, because he's so talented, he can help us all win it. What's this guy, best case scenario, 5 or 6 sacks over the course of the year?
That's pretty good.
He's got to keep his head on. I also think you have to look at the Sean Payton situation where, and this is the other, if I was going to argue with myself, like, I think a lot of people look like that's a shit show.
Exactly.
Like it's not like we're not looking at it. New England now, shit show. Like shit shows, guys. This is how Drake Jackson was once described to me. USC was such a shit show that the negativity surrounding a lot of their players, you had to be very careful with crushing a kid. Hufanga was the rare guy, rose above it. It's like everyone's getting fired, not winning games. Everyone's like, love Hufanga, man.
Right.
Hufanga, we want Hufanga. Where most of the guys like Drake Jackson, like, got fat, his dad's involved, he doesn't listen. Is all that true? Or is it like, are you guys kind of fucked up? Right? Because we did see Randy Gregory a couple years ago really fucking get his career rolling and be worth like a lot of money on the open market. And I think the Niners would say, hey, a couple years ago, everyone was talking shit about Arden Key.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, marijuana was illegal. Not anymore.
He
right?
pop for weed?
Randy Gregory?
Oh. Yeah. To me, it's yeah.
14
I don't
games
mean
in
like
16.
Yeah, the Nebraska. But
17
I'm
and
talking.
19.
But I think it's more like now it's more about because he's rich and everything. Is it like is he a listen guy more than
agree.
like the weed thing? Oh yeah, I forgot.
Like somebody
I forgot he couldn't say he got suspended all the time. Yeah.
Multiple times, and it affected him in the draft. He actually made a comment to the media. He was like, they asked him if he visited the Niners. He kind of laughed. He's like, I don't remember. I went on 29 visits. Everyone wanted to talk to me. Like, there was a red flag. He said he fell asleep in the airport before the Raider visit. He's like, I was a different guy back then. I maybe missed a flight or something. I couldn't quite figure out what he meant. But when I bring up Randy, to me, it's not about the weed. It's about the story I heard about Denver, him not working hard in training camp. But to your point, should I blindly take Sean Payton's side on that? No.
Well, Sean Payton in the right frame of mind right now?
No.
I texted
to Sean, right? He was expensive to Sean. He stands in Sean's way of doing other stuff. Doesn't stand in the Niners' way of doing anything financially.
Yeah, 100%. So I was texting with a buddy who would know, spent some time with the Patriots, and I said, "Well, how would you rank the miserable rankings of the buildings?" And he's like, this was after the Raiders won Monday night. He's like, trust me, the Raiders building has not been a fun place over the last, since Josh and Ziegler got there. It's not a positive place. But we did Belichick. We did the Panthers with Tepper roaming around. And we did the Broncos. And he said in his mind, he wouldn't even think it was close. He'd put the Broncos one. Because he's like, championship years, Bill's not Mr. fucking howdy doody, happy-go-lucky, smiling all the time. Bill's naturally curmudgeon. But the edginess of Sean in that place is bad. I think there's some toxicity in that building right now.
I think you're right.
And guys like Randy Gregory
right.
It's hard to like rise above it.
I remember hearing that Sean Payton yelled at General Payton about getting Randy Gregory out more than a month, like several months ago, based on the training camp performance.
If you had to guess,
so that's what you're bringing in. But again, like we see it all the time. Situations. This is the debate with quarterbacks and systems. And I heard Orlovsky say today, every great quarterback is a system quarterback. I'm not going to get into that debate, but the point is like it applies to every position. Players if I said to you like, okay, John, I got a coach here who is saying he wants a shot to work with Randy Gregory. You'd go, okay, which coach? And I say Chris Kasarik. And you go, okay, I'm more likely to buy a Chris Kasarik recommendation, right? Like that is part of this. Is you bet on Chris Kasarik when it comes to players.
Do you know what's so stupid though?
What?
Michael and Kobe thrived in the triangle. Steph Curry thrives in a motion offense. Like, obviously,
Of course.
star players are more talented than other people, but if you put them in the right situation, you could find the most creative human alive. But if he doesn't have the resources, he can't make the fucking iPhone. You link that guy up with Steve Jobs or Tim Cook, who knows what, or Bezos or whatever, could be off and running. You give Steph Curry, it went to a whole nother level. You gave Phil, Michael Jordan, and Kobe Bryant, he unlocked untapped potential of winning. Because ultimately, there's a two-prong part to sports.
Yeah.
Producing and then winning, right? The best, like you can produce and be James Harden or Russell Westbrook or whoever, but can you produce and then turn that into winning? Like what Bryce does, what Joker does, what all the top quarterbacks do. That's what matters, right? It's just
I mean, Michael
Marino had a lot of years
game.
throwing a lot of touchdowns, missing the playoffs.
Right.
Wasn't his fault.
MJ was scoring 30 points a game, not winning championships before Phil showed up.